It was here, at Stanford University, that a young black woman began a new chapter in her life. She was the first in her family to step onto a campus so grand, with stone arches, lush gardens, and libraries that seemed to hold the entire world within their walls. She arrived full of hope. Hope for education. Hope for a better future. She kept her head down, focused on her studies, never imagining that her path would collide with one of the most powerful legacies in California. It happened one afternoon in the quiet of the Stanford Library. She sat at a wooden desk, her books spread wide, her pen moving with determination. And that was when he noticed her, the son of a billionaire. He had everything: wealth, influence, a name that carried weight across the state. Yet in that silent library, all he saw was her, a woman who carried grace and strength without even knowing it. From that day on, he chased her. He sent notes through friends, found excuses to sit near her in lectures, and lingered by the places he knew she studied. At first, she rejected him. She believed his world was not her world, and his intentions could not be trusted. But persistence has a way of softening even the strongest walls. Day by day, his pursuit became less about charm and more about sincerity. He listened to her dreams. He walked with her across the campus gardens. He made her laugh in moments when life already felt too heavy. And slowly, she fell. Against her own judgment, against the fear she carried, she let him in. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe in love, the kind of love that could break boundaries and rewrite destinies. For a time, life at Stanford felt like a fairy tale. Their love grew stronger, hidden from the world, protected by the innocence of youth. She dreamed of a future together, graduation, careers, a family built on love, not money. And when she discovered she was carrying his child, her heart filled with both fear and hope. She believed this child was a bond that would make their love unshakable. But love is never lived in isolation. News of their relationship reached his family, a family known not only for wealth, but for pride and power. One evening, she was invited to their mansion, a home built like a palace, its gates taller than anything she had ever seen. She walked in with trembling hands, dressed modestly, but with the courage of a woman who believed love could conquer all. The family looked at her, not with kindness, but with cold calculation. They saw her skin before they saw her soul. They whispered about her background, her neighborhood, her family, her place in their world. And when the moment came, they spoke the words that shattered her heart: "You are not fit for our legacy. You do not belong in our family." Her body went cold. She wanted to scream, to fight, but no words came. With tears pressing at the corners of her eyes, she left that mansion, carrying only her unborn child and the bitter weight of rejection. That night, in her small apartment, she held her belly and whispered through her tears, "They may reject us, but I will never reject you. You will shine brighter than the world that turns its back on us." It was in that moment that her heartbreak transformed into determination. She realized she could not depend on wealth, on promises, or even on love from another person. All she had was her faith, her strength, and the child growing inside her. She was alone, but she would not be broken. The rejection from his family forced her into a life she never imagined. The man she loved drifted away under the weight of his family's power, leaving her to face the world alone. Soon, her fairy tale dissolved into the cold reality of survival. Her new world was not mansions and luxury cars. It was the ghetto, where dreams were easily crushed by poverty, and hope often faded before the day was done. She rented a small, dimly lit apartment, its walls thin, its rent barely affordable. Each morning, she woke before sunrise, putting on her uniform for double shifts at a diner. She worked until her feet ached, until her stomach growled with hunger, sometimes skipping meals so her child could eat instead. At night, she walked home through streets filled with danger, clutching her bag close, whispering silent prayers just to make it safely inside. When her boy was born, he had nothing but her arms and her love. As he grew, she gave him everything she could, though it was never enough in the eyes of the world. Other children wore designer clothes, her son wore hamadans. Other families drove cars, she pushed her son in an old stroller, wheels squeaking with every turn. Yet, in the midst of lack, she gave him something money could never buy. Every night, as he lay in bed, she placed her hands over him and prayed. "You are destined for greatness," she whispered. "Don't let the world tell you otherwise." And though the cupboards were often bare, though the electricity sometimes went out, their home was never empty, because it was filled with her faith and her relentless love. But poverty is merciless. There were nights when she wept silently, wondering if she could keep going. Nights when the noise of the neighborhood, sirens, shouting, violence, made her question if her son would ever escape. Would he grow bitter? Would he grow angry at a world that gave him so little? Or would her love be enough to guide him toward something greater? In the heart of struggle, a boy was growing. He didn't have the toys, the gadgets, or the luxuries other children showed off. What he had was something more powerful, a mother who believed in him, even when the world didn't. From the time he could walk, she taught him dignity. She taught him respect, resilience, and the truth that wealth is not measured first in money, but in character. When other boys mocked his worn-out shoes, he stood tall, repeating his mother's words, "Clothes don't make the man. Character does." And though he sometimes went to bed hungry, he never went to bed unloved. She made sure of that. Each night, before the lights dimmed and the streets outside filled with chaos, she prayed over him, whispering, "You are destined for greatness. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Slowly, those words became his shield. When teachers doubted him because he came from nothing, he worked harder. When classmates laughed at his second-hand books, he studied longer. He carried his mother's sacrifices in his heart like a secret fuel. While poverty tried to harden him, her love shaped him into something unbreakable. As the boy grew, people began to notice. Teachers saw a spark, a determination rare for his age. Neighbors whispered about the young boy who refused to give up, who never let his circumstances define him. He was different. He was focused. He was becoming a young man with vision, and though the road ahead was steep, he was already climbing. The boy who once wore hamadans and walked hungry to school grew into a young man with unstoppable vision. While others saw walls, he saw doors waiting to be built. He carried with him every sacrifice his mother had made, every skipped meal, every prayer whispered in the night, and turned them into fuel for his journey. He studied with relentless focus. He worked jobs no one else wanted, just to keep himself afloat. While his peers sought shortcuts, he embraced discipline. Every setback, every rejection, every locked door only sharpened his determination. He refused to let poverty write his story. And then, opportunity arrived. He discovered the world of technology, computers, coding, innovation. A world where ideas mattered more than last names, where creativity could outweigh legacy. He poured himself into it, learning late into the night, chasing knowledge the way others chased fame. Slowly, quietly, he began to build. First small projects, then bigger ones, until his vision caught fire. The boy from the ghetto became a man in California's tech world. A man whose name no longer carried shame, but power. His ideas turned into companies, his companies into opportunities, and his opportunities into wealth. Before long, he was no longer the poor boy people pitied, he was the self-made millionaire people envied. Reporters wanted to know his secret. "Where did you find this drive?" they asked. And his answer was always the same. "From my mother," he said. "She gave me everything when she had nothing." The world celebrated his success, but for him, it was only the beginning. He made a promise to himself, that one day, his success would heal her pain. One day, the tears she cried in silence would be repaid with joy. But just as his star began to rise, shadows from the past returned. The family who once rejected his mother, who turned their backs on him before he was even born, was now knocking at his door. Success has a strange way of changing how people see you. The same man they once ignored now stood on magazine covers, his name echoing across California's tech world. Investors sought his advice. Universities invited him to speak. He was no longer the boy from the ghetto, he was the man building an empire. And then, they came back. The family that once turned their backs on his mother, that once told her she would never be fit for their legacy, now stood at his door with smiles that did not reach their eyes. They spoke of reconciliation, of forgiveness, of family bonds. They talked about legacy, the very word they once used to destroy his mother's heart. They wanted to be part of his success, to claim him as one of their own. They painted pictures of inheritance, of family empires joined together. But as he listened, memories flooded back, memories of his mother's tears, of her working late shifts to feed him, of the night she went without so he could eat. He remembered the rejection, the silence, the cruelty. And so, when they finished their carefully rehearsed words, he looked at them with calm but unshakable resolve. His voice trembled, but his spirit stood firm. Family is not who comes when the sun is shining. Family is who stays when the storm rages. You left us in the cold. You cannot enter now that we stand in the light. The room went silent. For the first time, the family who once held power now felt powerless. They saw not just a man, but the son of the woman they had rejected, the woman whose love had built what their wealth never could. He could have closed the door and walked away, satisfied that he had proven them wrong. But his mother had taught him something deeper, that bitterness is easy, but true strength is found in building a better world. And so, instead of chasing revenge, he chose redemption, not for them, but for people like his mother, who had been abandoned, overlooked, and rejected. With his wealth, he began creating opportunities where none existed. He funded programs for single mothers struggling to raise children on their own. He built scholarships for young people from broken homes, determined that no child would be told they weren't fit for greatness. He supported shelters, schools, and small businesses, lifting those who society had cast aside. And everywhere he went, he told the same story. In speeches, at ceremonies, in interviews, he repeated the name of the woman who had given him everything when she had nothing. "My mother," he said. "She is the reason I stand here today. She is the foundation of my success." While the billionaire's family clung to their old empires built on exclusion and pride, he was building a new one, an empire of hope, dignity, and resilience. And soon, people began to see the difference. His name carried not just the weight of wealth, but the light of compassion. He was no longer just a millionaire in tech, he was a voice for the forgotten, a champion for the rejected. And as the world celebrated his vision, the very family that once disowned him could only watch in silence. They saw their power fading, their legacy shrinking, while his grew brighter with every life he touched. The son they had rejected was creating a legacy greater than anything their money could buy. If you love this story and would want to listen to the next episode, please comment next in the comment section, and hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to get notified when the next video drops. Thank you.